The void is calling. Will you answer? Not with words, not with an action, but with a thought, a flicker, an impulse. The temptation to blurt out the worst possible thing at the quietest moment. The strange desire to veer off the road, not to crash, but to see what happens. The urge to say I love you to someone you've only known for a week. You don't want to, you won't, but the thought arrives anyway. This is L'appel du vide, the call of the void. And it's not about destruction, it's about something stranger, a fleeting, unexplainable urge to let go. People talk about the classic example, the impulse to jump from a great height despite having no desire to fall. But L'appel du vide is everywhere. The urge to make a sudden loud noise in a complete silence. The impulse to pull a fire alarm knowing it's wrong. Not because you want to, not because you should, but because, for just a second, the thought exists. Why? Psychologists say that these thoughts are a safety check. Your brain presents you with a possibility, a test of control. The fact that you recoil, that's proof you're in control. You imagine the chaos, and in doing so, you affirm your decision to stay on course. But that explanation feels insufficient. It suggests that these thoughts are just errors, when in reality they feel far too deliberate. Maybe L'appel du vide is something else, a glimpse of the part of you that doesn't always get to speak. A reminder that you are not just routine and restraint, that buried under all the logic and planning there's something more, something impulsive and curious. Maybe the void isn't trying to destroy you, maybe it's just trying to remind you of the parts of yourself you keep ignoring. And maybe that's why we call it the call of the void, like it's some force outside of us, whispering danger from the edge. But it's not, it's you. And maybe it's easier to imagine it as some external voice, some abyss calling out, because that way we don't have to take responsibility for it. We can blame it on the darkness, the height. It's unsettling to admit that the thought to break the pattern, to tip the glass, to step off the path was ours. But the truth is, the void isn't an outside force. It's a part of you that lives just beneath the surface. A part that's tired of restraint, the part that's curious about what would happen if you don't follow the rules. If you stopped pushing these urges away, if you let them guide you, if you let them shape you, would you be more yourself or less? We're told that to be sane is to resist chaos, to choose control over impulse. But what if that resistance is just the mask? What if the truest version of you isn't the one who stays silent, polite, restrained, but the version that acts without fear? The version that isn't filtering every word, suppressing every strange desire? Maybe it's the part of you that just wants to know what happens when you say the wrong thing, take the wrong turn, or step just slightly out of path. To be considered crazy is to act outside of social norms. But are you less crazy if you spend every moment fighting your real thoughts? And if you give in, if you choose spontaneity, risk, chaos, are you more you than ever? Because if not, does that not imply that those thoughts aren't yours? Friedrich Nietzsche once said, when you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you. People take that to mean that staring into the darkness changes you, that if you engage with chaos for too long, you risk becoming part of it. But what if the abyss isn't some external force? What if the abyss is just you? Because the void that calls out to you is your own mind, your own impulse, your own hidden desire for something unexpected. Maybe when the abyss gazes back, it's not trying to consume you. Maybe it's showing you a reflection of yourself, a version of you that wants to know what would happen if you break the pattern. Most of the time we don't listen. We don't steal the object, we don't say the thing. But sometimes we do. You walk home the long way just to see what it feels like. You break the routine on an impulse and find something new. You send the message, take the risk, let spontaneity win. And in those moments, you realize the void isn't always trying to pull you into some ruin. Sometimes it's nudging you towards something you wouldn't have otherwise found. Everyone has these thoughts, and a lot of them are destructive, but occasionally they're not. So every once in a while, when the abyss calls, answer, and see what it has to say.